Today's topic is the 3 lessons that I have learned from one of the hardest years of my life. And I wanted to do a episode about the lessons that I've learned recently, because this has been a really freaking hard year for me. And there are so many of you that listen to this podcast that are new friends of mine that have met me after the podcast is launched. And you may find it surprising to hear that this has been a really, I'm talking, if I had to rate 0 to 10, how hard it was, 0 being this was a cakewalk, 10 being this sucked sour eggs. This year would be about a 97 on a scale from 0 to 10. And if you listen to me today, you think, well, how could that possibly be? You've got one of the top ranking podcasts in the world. You've come out of nowhere and are just crushing it, Mel. You seem to have it all going on. You're clearly a very positive person. How could this possibly have been the hardest year of your life? Well, you're seeing me after the hardest year. And, when you think about a lot of the kind of cheesy metaphors in life, it's always the darkest right before dawn. It's always hard right before it gets easy. And I think one of the things that's true about life is that life requires you to get lost right before you find yourself again. And I'm not going to lie to you, it sucks when you feel lost. It sucks when life is hard. There is nothing fun about it. I do not wish it on anybody. And I also know that it is unavoidable. That there are going to be years of your life that are absolutely amazing and delicious and easy, and they're going to just flow like water flows out of a faucet. And then there are going to be years like the year I just had that nearly suck you dry. It's like the hits just keep coming. And so I'm going to just at a top level tell you some of the reasons why this year was super hard for me. And even preparing to talk to you about this, thinking about what life looked like just over a year ago, I started to get emotionally triggered. Just talking about how hard it's been makes me feel stressed out again. So, let me just kind of go back, about a year. So a year from now, I was so burnt out. I had been running on adrenaline for years. The more successful I became, the more unhappy I was. For 2 years, I had been living separately from my husband and our son because we had raised our kids in Boston, and that's where my business was. And during the pandemic, remember that? During the pandemic, our son made this decision that he wanted to go to school in Southern Vermont. And so my husband and our son were living with my mother-in-law, and he was going to the public school 3 hours away from me in Southern Vermont. And I was down in Boston working. And so I was living alone. I was not near my husband and son. I would see them on the weekends. I was driving back and forth, and it was just beating me up. On top of that, there was some stuff going down at work that was super painful. I had somebody very close to me that betrayed me. I mean, they stole from me, they lied to me, and it had been going on for a while, and it all kind of blew up a year ago. And so here I am feeling lonely, feeling burnt out. I'm looking at a massive betrayal. And I don't know if any of you have ever had that experience where somebody deeply in your inner circle steals from you, lies to you, does something to you like that. But it just takes you to your knees. And I was super just unhealthy. I had not been exercising consistently. I was grabbing the alcohol to relieve the stress and loneliness. And in preparing to talk to you about this today, I went back through my camera roll and back through my calendar. And, it's a wake-up call because you kind of forget how bad things are once you get through it. I mean, when you're in the soup of it, you feel like you're drowning in sludge. But when you get through it, it's almost like after you have a baby, you forget the pain of labor. Looking back at my photos from last year, seeing me so worn down, I looked so pale. I looked like a dolphin. You know how dolphins have gray skin? I had no brightness to my face. The life force was just drained out of me. And, that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. I was in therapy. I was trying to sort stuff out, but I was just miserable. And if I'm being honest, I had been miserable for a while. I had just been pushing through. Life felt very hard. And I knew deep down that something had to give. I knew that I could not continue to go on living separate from Chris and Oak, going back and forth, feeling so burnt out, surrounding myself with friendships or relationships where I wasn't feeling supported. I was actually getting betrayed. And I knew I had to do something. And it may surprise you to hear me say, I just felt stuck. And I had all these excuses for why I had to keep going and all these excuses for why I, couldn't change things. And I also felt like this was getting done to me. I don't know if you've ever heard that quote that, life is happening for you. I hate that quote because I'm like, no, it's not. Life is happening to me. Don't tell me when my life isn't working that this is happening for me. Screw you. Well, then something happened. What happened is in December, I had a conversation with a really good friend of mine. And my friend's name is Pete Sheehan, and he's known me for a long time. And he said, Mel, you are more miserable than I have ever heard you. And I think that it's time that you truly get control of this, that you focus on your happiness, that you make some serious changes. And this brings me to lesson number 1. You ready? Lesson number 1 from the hardest year of my life is that your life is always trying to teach you something. You may not want to learn what it's trying to teach you, but your life is always trying to teach you something. Whether life is going easy, it's trying to teach you something. You know what life is teaching you when life is easy? It's teaching you what works. It's teaching you the habits and the kinds of people that make you feel good. It's teaching you what life working looks like. And you know what life is teaching you when life is hard? It's teaching you what is broken. It's trying to wake you up. And what I've learned the hard way, do not do what I did. I am so damn stubborn. Like if you think about life as a giant school, life is the greatest school you will ever attend. You can enjoy it, you can hate it, but life is always going to be school because life is always teaching you something. And do not make the mistake that Mel Robbins makes because I'm a very stubborn student. And what happens is if you don't get the lesson that life is trying to teach you, life just brings out the sledgehammer. And that's what happened to me. It just hit me over the head with a freaking sledgehammer. And so I want you to stop for a second right now. And I want you to think, what is my life trying to teach me right now? And here's a simple exercise that my friend Pete gave me. It's so dead simple, it's kind of nuts. You're going to take out a piece of paper. He said, Mel, take out a piece of paper. And I have my journal here. You can hear me like flipping it open right now because this is like what actually happened. December 21st, last year, I was speaking with my friend Pete Sheehan. I got to find the page here. I should have put a little, here it is right here. And he said, Mel, I want you to draw a line down the center of a page. And on the left-hand side, for the little ears, I apologize, but this is what it says, shit I hate. On the right-hand side, things I love. I want you to write down everything that is not working that you hate about your life. And here's a nicer way to say it. Where in your life do you feel friction? Where in your life do you feel friction? It could be in your body. It could be in your relationships. It could be at work. It could be when you look at your bank account. Where is life creating friction? It's hard. You're frustrated. Everything feels like a fight. This is where the lesson is, everybody. Friction is how your life teaches you to wake up and pay attention. Friction is where your life is trying to hit you with a sledgehammer, because life wants you to be happy. Life wants you to feel good about yourself. Life wants you to enjoy yourself. Life wants you to live in alignment with what's meant for you. And you see, when you feel friction, I felt friction in every single aspect of my life. I felt friction in my body. I felt friction in my mental health. There was not a place when I sat down to do this exercise, what do I hate? Where there was not friction. That's how bad it was. I wrote, I hate packing on a Sunday and leaving my family to drive home and be alone. I hate flying alone. I hate working alone. I hate being stuck somewhere and not being able to get home. I hate the fact that I feel like I've got to generate all the ideas and keep going and going and going, and that I can't stop. I hate feeling insignificant. I hate feeling disconnected. I hate feeling like I'm just going with no plan. I hate feeling disorganized and dropping balls and ADHD and lack of support on the administrative side of my life. I hate feeling overwhelmed. I hate having to set up technology. I hate never seeing my friends. I hate not knowing what's going on. I hate having nobody to handle things to. I hate that I feel like everything is a broken process. I hate working remote. I hate not knowing how everything I'm working toward is going to connect to something bigger. Wow, that's a lot of stuff that I hate. I hate my negative thoughts. It goes on and on and on. My list of things that were causing friction. I hate that I don't live with Chris and my husband. I hate that I don't see my friends. I hate that I'm constantly traveling in order to work. I hate the feeling of loneliness. It just goes on and on and on. Now, here's what's interesting. Life is trying to teach me something. And what my life was teaching me with a gigantic sledgehammer is that it's not working. It's not working. Wherever you have friction, there is either a broken process or a broken set of relationships, or there is something that is no longer aligned with you, or there are the wrong people around you. That's all that it is. And see, we get so attached to the way that things are that we don't get the lessons. And when you don't get the lessons, you close off what could be. And I'm here to tell you that you deserve to have a life where you don't feel friction every day. You're not wired to live a life where you feel that intense. And I can give you some other examples. Like, when our son was in the 4th grade, he would just explode when we had to sit down and do homework at night, like full on temper tantrums. You know what that is? That is friction in a young person's body. That is him feeling this deep sense that something's off. And when that happened for our son, and he would pound his head against the kitchen island and he would cry before he had to go to school, he didn't know what was wrong, but he was trying to teach us something. Life was trying to teach us something. His body intrinsically knew that something was off. And what turned out to be off is that the kid had profound dyslexia, profound dysgraphia, executive functioning, attention stuff going on, and he couldn't sit in the classroom and neurologically do what was being asked of him to do. And so I'm here to tell you, when you make this list of things that you hate, the areas of your life that create friction for you right now, that's where the lessons are. And those lessons will repeat until you learn them. Do not be stubborn. Do not look at the friction as if something's wrong. Look at the friction in your life as an opportunity to create alignment. as an opportunity to pull your life back into the other column, which is things that I love. And there was so much that I loved in my life. There was the therapy that I was doing. There was the time that I was spending with Chris and our son and building a house. There was all the new things we were working on. There was the podcast that was out in the future. All of this stuff. You got to walk toward the things. You got to do more of what's in alignment. But I'm telling you right now, the lessons are in the hard stuff. The lessons are in the friction. So that's lesson number one. Your life is trying to teach you something. It always is. Stop resisting the lesson. Because I have found in personal experience that if you refuse to learn the lesson, life will show up with a sledgehammer. When I look backwards now, I can see that I've been addicted to being busy for a long time. I can see that I needed to deal with this friction for a long time. It's just got louder and louder and louder to the point where I could no longer ignore it. I could also see looking backwards that I had often had people in my inner circle that were doing things like lying and betraying me. And I had ignored it. And I had made excuses for people. And so guess what? Those betrayals just got bigger and bigger and bigger until it was so painful that I had to finally learn the lesson. And so friction in your life is a good thing because friction wakes you up. Friction puts a spotlight on what's not working. And friction only builds everyone until you learn the lesson and you make a decision to turn toward it. All right, that's number one. Lesson number two, your excuses are bullshit. That's right. All those excuses you got, they're just fear. They are just fear. When you learn the lesson, when you turn toward the friction in your life and you look for either the process or the people or the place that you're living or the place that you work, all of the things, the thinking patterns that you have, the behavior patterns, when you start to identify everybody, all of the areas of friction in your life, and you go to work to learn the lesson, here's what I want you to know. You are capable of changing it. You are 100% capable of learning the lesson and making anything in your life better. I know that is true about you. And that means that the only thing that is keeping you from identifying the things that aren't working and doing the work to move your life into alignment with who you're meant to be and the things that truly make you come alive, the only thing that's preventing you from doing that is you. And your fears, whether you're like any excuse that you have is just fear. You're afraid to try. You're afraid to fail. You're afraid you're too late. You're afraid of this. You're afraid of that. Now's not the right time. I don't have this. I don't have that. This person would be upset with me. All of it is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of it not working out, fear of being disappointed, fear of disappointing others. That's what an excuse is. You're just managing fear. And it's all baloney. And I say that because I do the same thing. I do the same thing. I want to take you back just over a year ago. This was shocking when I started to prepare for this conversation with you, because when I went back through my camera roll and I looked at my calendar, I realized that it was just over a year ago that I published my last book, The High Five Habit. I spent 20% of that book sharing about this big dream that I had about launching a podcast. So over a year ago today, I did not have a podcast. I was still making excuses about a podcast. I was scared about launching a podcast. In fact, I wrote about it in this book. Just over a year ago, as I was promoting this book, I was making videos begging some of the biggest podcast hosts in the world to have me on their podcast to talk about my book, The High Five Habit. So I made videos literally for the biggest, the people that I admire. These custom videos. I put myself out there. I was all afraid, about doing it. I sent these videos off to people that I love. I sent them off. Crickets. Nobody even responded. And I took that to mean I will never make it in the podcast business because the people I admire the most in that, they don't even want to talk to me. They don't even respond. I mean, that's how big my excuses were. And I'm going to read to you a little bit about what I wrote. And this is just over a year old, you guys. So I want to put this in perspective as you're listening to me. As you listen to me right now, we are one of the top podcasts in the entire world because of you. We are the #1 education podcast in the world on every platform because of you. A year ago, I was questioning whether or not I should even start this at all. And I'm going to read to you what I believed and felt in my heart. And I'm going to do this because there is something that you want to do. I had been thinking about launching a podcast for years. I had come up with so many excuses, so many reasons not to do it. There is something that is on your heart, that is on your mind. Some change that you want to make, some art that you want to pursue, something that you want to do with your life. You know it. You feel it. You think about it. That was me with this podcast. And a year ago, I was busy talking myself out of it. I was busy looking for all kinds of reasons and excuses for why it was too late, everybody. I missed the window. I should have done it years ago. See, don't even bother. When I think about the excuses that I had, they're the same excuses you had. And see, you're seeing me now. You're seeing the success. So you're sitting there going, well, it's easy for Mel Robbins. She already had an audiobook. Are you kidding me? I had the same excuse. I almost didn't do this. What a shame that would have been. And there's something that you're busy convincing yourself not to do. And that's why lesson number 2 is that excuse is bullshit. It's just fear. I had the same thing. Let me read to you from the High Five Habit, because this is what I put out in the world just over a year ago. You're seeing now what happens when you push through that stupid excuse. But I want you to understand, I get this. It's on page 111. Oh yeah, I love this. Here's the title. I'm not giving this advice to you. I'm giving it to myself. So this is a chapter about jealousy, and it's about excuses and how I used to let self-doubt and jealousy eat me up inside. But here's the thing about jealousy. It's just blocked desire. It's a normal emotion. And the truth is, there's not a day that goes by when I don't feel a pang of jealousy. It happens every time I scroll through social media. And here's an example that I write about in this book. Because remember, when I published the High Five Habit just over a year ago, I didn't have a podcast. I didn't have a plan for launching a podcast. I was just writing about how jealousy was stopping me from pursuing it. It was eating me alive. So let me tell you about that jealousy I was feeling just a year ago. Right now, my career, when I look ahead of me, the people I'm most jealous of are the ones who have already started podcasts. For example, my friend Lewis Howes. He's been hosting the School of Greatness podcast for 7 years. I'm extremely jealous of my friend Lewis. In fact, I got a bunch of friends who have hit podcasts, and I'm jealous of all of them. Too many friends to list. I never really thought about it before, but I'm surrounded by people who are podcast hosts. I'm jealous of them. And then, tell me if you do this too, I beat myself up for not having done it yet. I beat myself up and I come up with excuses all the time. Creating a podcast would be as natural and as fluid for me as drinking a glass of water. Why? Because I do audiobooks. I speak on stages. I don't like to write books because of my dyslexia and my ADHD. But why haven't I done it? If I want to do a podcast so much, why haven't I done it? And now I'm going to ask you the question. If you want to do this thing, whatever it is, travel the world, get healthy, write a book, change your career, go back to school, save your marriage, work on your... If you want to do this, why haven't you done it? I'll tell you why you haven't done it. The same reason why I haven't done it. Because you tell yourself you've missed the window. You tell yourself that it's never going to be you. You want this thing so badly. Just admit it. I wanted so badly to be a podcast host. I did. But you know what I spent my energy doing? Listening to my fears, coming up with excuses. I'm too late. Somebody else already did it. I can't do it now. I'll just be a copycat. Nobody needs to hear my voice. There's already there's 5 million podcasts on Spotify. 5 million. I missed the window, everybody. And see, the truth is, when you start to write it out, all your excuses, you'll realize something I realized, which is it doesn't make any sense because there's nothing stopping you from doing it except for these stupid excuses. Nothing at all. Who cares that there's all these people that have already done? Who cares that your friend already renovated their kitchen and they have white cabinets and you wanted white cabinets and now you can't have white cabinets because then you're going to be a copy? Are you kidding me with these excuses? You can't go back to the gym because you haven't been in one in 3 months? Seriously? Do you know how dumb that is? You can't figure out how to be financially free? Do you know how many people who are stupider than you have figured that out? Of course you can figure that out. Your excuses are baloney. They're BS. It's just your fear. Just like my fear about being too late, not being good enough. You want to know the real deepest fear? The deepest fear is that I would finally pursue this thing that I'd always wanted to do. Because I've been thinking about this for a long time. You may not know this about me, but I got my start in local radio. I used to host a little call-in show Saturday mornings in Boston. I got paid $25 an hour to do. I loved that show. I fell in love with radio doing that show. I took on that job to help pay for groceries. It was a lifeline during a really hard time in my life. I loved it. And ever since then, 2007, I've wanted to get back to radio. And as the podcast market exploded, I wanted to get into podcasting. And you know what I did? I spent years coming up with excuses. Excuses for why I was too late. Excuses for why. And you're doing the same thing. Do you know how many times, everybody, I would say, it's too late. Mel, you missed the window. Everybody and their mother has a podcast. There's no way you're going to be successful. There's too many realtors, everybody. There's already enough nurses. How many of you have said that? Of course you have. There's enough books. Nobody's going to read my baloney. It's too late. I'm too old. Oh, I'm too young. I'm too young. I was talking with our son, Oakley. He loves streaming. Loves it. Loves playing video games and talking to the people that are watching and playing video games. Loves giving advice as loves doing it. And then we moved to a new school and he was really afraid because when the kids said, "What are you into?" He's like, "Well, I love to stream." And they're like, "What?" Boom. Stop doing it. Was afraid of what people thought. Again, excuses. If I continue doing this, I won't have friends. That's bull cocky, whatever the heck the word is. You know, is that even a word? I don't even know. Who knows? But he hasn't done it for 2 years. And all of a sudden, because he has felt the pull, the last 2 nights, and you know what I think it is? I think it's the fact that he was on an episode of this podcast and there was so much positive feedback about what he shared that something clicked. And he realized his excuses are baloney, just like yours. And for the last 2 nights, you know what he's been doing after he gets his homework done? Streaming, giving kids advice. Is anyone watching right now? Nope, not a soul. But he's going to keep going. It's going to take time. And he kind of matter of fact last night, came down for a glass of water in the kitchen. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm streaming." I'm like, "Well, right now?" He said, "Yeah." He's like, "Nobody's watching right now." And I'm like, "Oh." And he's like, "Well, Mom, it takes time. You got to show up consistently." That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to stop this time because I was on a roll last time and I let my excuses and my fear stop me. I haven't done it in 2 years. I've missed this so much and I'm not going to let it stop me again. I love that kid and I love you. And that's why I'm telling you, your excuses, complete bullshit. You're not too late. You're not too early. Today is the right day. And you're not starting over. You're starting with all of the experiences of your life. You're doing this at the exact right time. This is perfect. You're listening to me today because you are meant to not only learn the lesson and start addressing the friction, but to one by one, knock those excuses out of the way. And you know how do they do that? action is the answer. Action is the answer. You can figure anything out. Absolutely anything. You can reverse engineer it. You can stalk people. You can figure out what they did. And one step at a time, one day at a time, you can start to align your life with the things that you truly want to do, things you enjoy doing, with people that you really like. And you can push through your excuses one by one with the actions that you take. That's how I did it. I finally got so sick of feeling miserable, so sick of the friction inside me, so sick of denying myself the frickin' dreams that I have had held in my heart locked away. I was so sick and tired of myself that I'm like, that's it. I'm doing it. I don't care if nobody invites me on their podcast. I don't care if this thing fails. I'm not doing this for other people. I'm doing this for myself. And that's what you need to do. You're not doing this for the success. You're not doing this for the money. You're not doing this to impress somebody else. The changes that you need to make, the alignment that you need to bring your life into, you're doing this for you because you deserve to be happy. You deserve to see your dreams come true. You know how happy Oakley is? Sitting alone in his closet upstairs, streaming on Twitch while nobody is watching him. You know how happy he is? He is so happy because he has stopped feeling that tension and friction of knowing deep in your soul that you are denying yourself an experience that you want. And he is so happy that he has pushed through his own excuses and fears, and that he has aligned his actions every night with something he's wanted to do. He has kept a promise to himself. That is the coolest thing in the world. That's what this is about. Like, who cares if nobody listens to this? Who cares if it fails in the eyes of the charts or whatever? Because that's not why you're doing it in the first place. You're doing it because you want to move yourself from a life that feels hard and friction and full of resistance that you're putting in your own way. And you want to align your actions with the person you want to become. That's what this is about, everybody. And it took the hardest year of my life to get the easiest damn obvious lesson that there is. Mel, stop making your life hard. Stop putting energy into the crap that's not working. Stop making all this so personal. Everybody screws up. Everybody gets in toxic situations. This is not unique to you. Everybody has people steal crap from them or betray them. This is not you. You're not the only one. Stop tolerating this crap from yourself and just look in the mirror and figure out what you're going to address and get on with it, woman. Like, enough. And I don't recommend that you have the hardest year of your life to learn these lessons. That's why I'm sharing them with you. I don't recommend that you get so broken down by your own bullshit that you have a mental health breakdown. I don't recommend that. I want you to figure out what's not working in your life, what aspects you hate, what brings you friction, make the list, then get rid of your excuses by fixing this stuff. Absolutely everything in your life can be improved by you, period. And the only thing that's stopping you from doing it is your fear. And that fear is going to disappear the second you start taking action. One of the reasons why it's so important for you to get this on paper is because when you get this friction out of your head and out of your body, and you give yourself the gift of putting it on paper, and I invite you to do this with somebody. Get a friend and together get a piece of paper out. This is what I do with my friend Pete. He's literally like, we need to remove the friction from your life because you're tolerating too much friction, Mel. Get with a friend because the friend will be a truth teller. And you will be a truth teller for that friend of yours. And draw a line down the center of the page and write shit I hate on the left and write things I love on the right. And for me, the left-hand column was way longer than the right-hand column. And what I'm here to tell you is you don't have to tolerate that much distress, that much friction in your life. You and I, we're just used to friction. That's why we tolerate it. You and I are used to the toxic dynamic in our family. We're used to not going to the gym. We're used to feeling tired. We're used to feeling last on our list. That doesn't mean it has to stay that way. I am telling you, you have within you. If you can write that stuff down, you can figure out how to move yourself, inch yourself from the left-hand column, the shitty column, over to the right-hand column toward liking and loving aspects of your life. I am in your life because I want you and I to enjoy our lives. It doesn't mean it's always a party. But when you can identify areas of friction, things just feel off. They feel harder than they need to be. It's a struggle. That means there is a person, a process, a place, there is a pattern, there is something there that you got to go to work on. That's it. Getting rid of friction is your job. Identifying it is the first step. Removing the excuses that keep you from taking the actions to smooth it out, or remove it, or improve it, there's your options. That's it. Remove it, improve it, do something different. That's it. Even just writing it down will make you feel better. And when you sit down with a friend and do this, they're going to call you out. They're going to call you out about the things that you complain on. Don't forget to put your marriage on there. Don't forget to put the fact that your back hurts on there. You know, you're always griping about blah, 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 blah. That's going to help you. And it's really, that's what I did with Pete. I got my little book right here. Got my list. Boy, when I read my list, I'm like, whoa, there was a lot I was tolerating. And I have gone step by step, one by one. And I have addressed it. See, here's the thing. You may not be responsible for creating the friction, but you have a responsibility to remove it. And you deserve that. That does not mean your life is going to be perfect. That means you are going to feel empowered. And this is not one of these one and done exercises, because I now hunt for friction. If something feels off, like just yesterday, we were doing an episode for the podcast, and I was sitting in a director's chair behind a table, and I felt friction in my body. And I'm like, this feels hard. This feels weird. And then I noticed more friction. I don't want to ask the team to break the set down because we just put it up. And then I started to notice the excuses. I don't want people to be upset. I don't want to be a freak. I don't want to constantly change my mind. And then I'm like, you know what? I am committed to living in alignment. I'm committed to making things easier. I'm just done with this. And so I'm just going to say what's not working, and then we're going to address it, and then it'll be over, and life is easier. It's so much easier. Oh my God, you guys. But that brings me to number 3. Number 3. Change isn't easy. I wish it were. I wish it were easy. It is easy to identify friction. It is easy to identify your excuses. It is easy to identify the actions that you need to take. But taking those actions and feeling the emotions that come up and dealing with people's reactions, that's not easy. And it's really important for you to accept that and for me to accept that. Because when you accept the fact that change isn't easy, but it's possible, and it's worth it, and you're capable of it, that's the truth. And when you go into addressing all the areas of your life that aren't working, whatever that may be for this moment in your life right now, when you start this process and you remember these 3 things, that your life is always trying to teach you something, and the biggest teacher is areas of your life that create friction. Full stop, period. The second lesson, that your excuses are bullshit. Every single excuse you have is tied to some fear that you have. That's it. and that every single excuse can be faced and addressed with a small action. Again and again and again. Now, the third lesson is really important because it's the truth. Change isn't easy. I mean, this year I reorganized the team. I addressed the betrayal. I got seriously into therapy to improve a lot of friction in my marriage, both on my side and Chris's side. Not easy. It's not easy to sit in a therapy session and have to listen and hear stuff you don't want to hear. And it's not easy to change your own behavior when you've been doing things for a long time. It's not easy to go to the gym for the first time. Heck, I went to a hot yoga class when I was visiting my daughter in Los Angeles last week. I realized it's the first time I have been in an exercise studio for 3 years. It wasn't easy to get there. Now, I was happy I went when it was over, but I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that this is easy. When you know going into it that it's not going to be easy, but it is going to be worth it, damn it. And that I am capable of showing up for myself. I am capable of doing this. I am capable of inching along. I am capable of pushing through the fear. I am capable of identifying friction. I am capable of slowly moving my life from the shitty side to the awesome side. When you go into it knowing that, like that's what I did with this house. When we sold our house in Boston, that was not easy. I knew I needed to do it. I knew I needed to remove that variable from my life. That was not easy. And not only was it not easy, but I had a pretty big mental breakdown over it. I did not expect the wave of grief that was going to hit me selling the home that we raised our kids in for 26 years. I did not expect how discombobulated I would feel moving from a place that I had lived for 26 years and the container that held all those memories in that much time. It knocked me on my rear end. It was not easy at all. But now that I am on the other side of it, thanks to therapy and going back on an antidepressant for the first time in 20 years, I'll tell you, it was worth it. And I was capable of putting my life into the column of being in alignment. I am proud of myself. I am proud of myself for doing the work to finally launch this podcast. I am proud of myself, not because it's doing so well. I mean, of course, that's freaking amazing because your support makes me feel good. And I just can't believe what a force for good you and I are, that these episodes are truly changing and even saving people's lives. I mean, that's just extraordinary. But I'm proud of myself because I got over my own bullshit to do this. Do you know how liberating that is? When you push through your own stuff, when you commit to your happiness and to your goals, knowing this is not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. Knowing that I got what it takes within me to remove friction, to go toward the things that I want. It is like one of the most amazing things in the world. And yeah, you may be like my son Oakley, sitting upstairs alone in a closet with nobody watching as you put your first video out there. Who cares? You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you and the potential of your life and the dreams that you have inside of you and the happiness that you deserve. Like, I really feel like there's kind of two states in life because it's about energy. You're either feeling friction, and that means something's off, and there's just something to address. Don't beat yourself up. Big lesson for me. Just learn the lesson, everybody, because your life is trying to teach you something with that friction. Make your list. Any area where there's life, where there's friction, there's a pattern to address. There's a place that's making you miserable. There's somebody, a person. That's it. That's it. That's all that there is. There's a process. There is a process. Every breakdown that Chris and I have basically has to do with the fact that we have a broken process. When we are not in communication, Chris retreats and I keep going. And then Chris feels rejected. He feels taken advantage of. I have no idea because I'm blazing ahead 55 miles an hour. And what is broken is the communication process. Doesn't mean we're bad people. Doesn't mean the marriage sucks. It means there's friction between us because there's a broken process. And so again, this is such a huge invitation. Please, please do not run yourself into a wall the way I did. Do not ignore the lessons in your life that your life is trying to teach you via friction, because they are going to get louder. That sledgehammer is a-coming. And do not be a stubborn student like Mel Robbins. Do not wait for life to punch you in the face or knock you on your fanny or cause you to have a mental health breakdown requiring prescription medication, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with. Sometimes we need those ladders. Sometimes we need it every day, people. I freaking love my Celexa right now. Thank you, Celexa. You have helped me through this shitty year. I am proud to ask for help, whether it's for people or it's medication or it's new habits or it's from you, because sometimes it's not easy, but it's worth it. And you're capable of doing whatever it takes. And it might take you years. It took me decades to finally learn the lesson about people that have toxic patterns and betrayal, and my role in it too. Decades. It took me 10 years to realize that all of my success was born in a moment of crisis. You know, I didn't go, I think I'll write a book today. I'm like, I got bills to pay and a lien on my house, and my husband basically has just left his business and he's sobering up and he's depressed. And if we're going to pay bills, I got to figure this shit out. And I have never gotten out of that mode. Like when you can't pay for groceries, when you got liens on your house, you will say yes to anything that you need to say yes to stay afloat. And I don't think I ever got out of the mode of relating to work as though I was in an emergency. I always assumed my luck would run out, which is why I've been running like my life depends upon it. And that's why I ultimately hit a brick wall. It wasn't working anymore. It was making me miserable. And so when you stop and you write out the friction and you look at the lessons, please, like, do it now. Do not do the same stuff over and over and over for decades like I have. You do not need to wait for a sledgehammer. You can wake yourself up with a blank sheet of paper and 2 columns and a pen. And you will wake yourself up faster if you have a friend with you who will be a truth teller. And you also need to honor the things that are working about your life, because guess what? There are a lot of things that are working. And we need to do more of that. And when you are willing to learn the lessons that your life is teaching you at this moment, and there's always lessons. I'm sorry. It's whack-a-mole, people. That's what life is. You're going to fit. Here's the bad news. I got a lot of shit on the left-hand column now, too. It just is different stuff from last year. Because life is whack-a-mole. Life is school, people. You can enjoy it. You can hate it, but you got to attend it. That's the deal. And there's a lesson every day. And the biggest lessons are in the biggest moments of friction and the highest moments of joy. And if you get serious about paying attention to the lessons, and you get serious about your own baloney excuses, and you get serious about just taking actions and inching forward every day, and you embrace this notion, change isn't easy, but it's worth it, and I'm capable of it. You, my friend, will feel the happiness you deserve. You will remove the just stupid crap that you're tolerating. You will level up. You will make more money. You will enjoy it. Imagine that. Imagine enjoying it. And I realize you may be taking care of aging parents, or you've got super little kids, or you just went through a divorce, or you got a big health crisis, or you're in the middle of pitching a venture capital firm for the biggest deal of your life. The stakes are high. I get that stuff's going on, but I also know, because I have done this in my own life this year, that you can see what the lesson is. You can stop beating yourself up. You can fix the pattern. You can fix the personal dynamics. You can fix the places that you're showing up. You can fix the process. You do that, you get to work, and my God, you're going to be shocked at how proud you're going to be of yourself. And I want you to know that I'm here every single day because I know you can do it. If you don't believe it, let me be the person holding up the light over here going, hey, come on, walk towards me. I'll hold this light high till you catch up with me. And then guess what? I'm going to get hit with a sledgehammer, and I'm going to expect you to go forward and hold that damn light high and remind me that I'm going to be okay. Because the second that you start to move things of friction from one column to the other friction will show up. One of your kids will have a breakdown. It's just always like a charm, right? People always say, how are your kids doing? I'm like, well, today everybody's okay. Because God knows tomorrow somebody could have a mental breakdown. It's whack-a-mole. But we're playing it together, right? We're going to ride the waves together, everybody. Okay. That's what I got from the hardest year of my life.
One of the things I love you say is that no one is coming. And I there was a quote I read like this, even I was like 18. I remember saying, we are the ones that we've been waiting for. And it's that same, I think it's a, reason that your work resonates so deeply, with me, is that same idea that, we know it. We know no one's coming. But tell me a little about that.
I feel like in various moments of my life, when I have driven straight into a wall, self-imposed mostly, and I'm laying there in an enormous breakdown, whether it's grief or behavior that I've engaged in that I deeply regret, or any of it. And for me, I always want someone to fix it for me. It's sort of this 1-2 punch of when life blows and you're either in the middle of a breakup, or you've gotten fired from a job, or you're in major financial crisis, or you put on too much fucking weight, or whatever it is. You want to point the finger and say this is someone else's fault. And you also simultaneously hope that somebody else is going to fix it. And, I'm really good at lying around in my misery and licking my wounds and, really just suffering. And at some point, you'll get sick of doing that, because you'll realize nobody is coming to fix your life. No one. You can spend hours and hours and hours in a therapist chair blaming your mother or your father for what's wrong with your life. Or you can ask yourself, what am I going to do about it? Which is what you did about the weight loss question. And one of the things that I think is very important about the work that you and I are doing out in the world is that for women in particular, especially women who have taken time out of their careers to raise a family, it is extremely intimidating to get back into the workforce. And it is extremely intimidating to start a business. Especially if you tell yourself a story. I don't understand tech. What are my friends going to think? Like, who am I at the age of 50 to do da 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 da? The fact that you are willing to jump in because no one's coming. If you want to do a lifestyle blog, nobody's going to start it for you. If you're inspired by what Terry does, nobody is going to come and kick you in the ass and make you start, which is what you have to do. If you don't understand social media, but you are inspired by Terry's videos and what she's doing on TikTok, or you love her spindrift stuff that she does, like if that stuff is like sparking something in you, no one's coming. You got what you needed from Terry, and you get what you need from her because she's inspiring something to come alive in you. But if you want to go from thinking about it and wishing about it, you're going to have to push yourself to take action, because nobody's coming to build that dream to fight the fights you need to fight, to push through the excuses that you have. It's up to you. Because if you want to create a better life, you're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to prove it. You deserve to do it, but no one is coming to do it for you. And the second you embrace that it's your responsibility because it's your life. It's your responsibility because those are your dreams. It's your responsibility because this is what is calling to you. And the good news is this: once you have the clarity and the courage to say, I'm interested in being a food blogger, I'm interested in losing weight, I'm interested in launching a podcast, which is my new project, you can reverse engineer anything. I mean, if Terry and I can figure out how to build a digital brand, I think you can too. And there's something called Google, and there are books and there are workshops you can take. The information is out there. It's your attitude that is keeping you stuck.
What evolved for me happened after I had been a stay-at-home mom. After my kids left, I was with a friend and I was like, I have to do something more and I don't know what it is. And it was like, should I have a book club? Should I take a stripper class? I mean, what should it be? Because I want to create some new energy. And it just came from this conversation and it started something, so it's like, if I could do it, anybody could do it. And it definitely for me was, I was 50 years old, figuring it out.
Well, and I want to unpack that too, because most of you think you have to know what it is. That's not true. If you feel stuck, if you feel like there's more that's meant for you, if you feel like something is missing from your or if you feel like something is missing from your life, you're correct. Something is missing. You're correct. There is more that's meant for you. But here's where most of you get it wrong. You don't have to know what it is. So when you said, I didn't know what was missing, I didn't know if I needed a book club or take a strippers class or whatever the heck it is, the answer is yes, do all those things. Because what's going to happen when you start a book club is you're going to get in community with other people, and that's going to shift the energy and you're going to bump into something. What happens when you go and you take a lesson on stripping or pole dancing or something that's making something creative come alive with you? You might not become a stripper. You might not become a pole dancer or install one in your own bedroom, or you might. But in doing that, you're shifting the energy. And you're also allowing different input, different people, different experiences to come into your life, which naturally brings more newness into your life. And it's in the exploration, it's in the awakening. That's how you're going to find what's going to make you come alive. 3 years ago, Terry, I never would have said, I know exactly what I need in my life. I need to move to bumfuck nowhere, Vermont, where people go to die and play golf. And, that's what I need to do. No, I just knew that something was missing. I knew that my life as it had been was starting to feel, as amazing as it was, stale. I knew that I needed a change. I didn't have a freaking clue what that change was. And when I look back from where I am right now, and I look back 3 years ago before the pandemic hit, and I could see how stuck I was and how I was yearning for something, but had no idea what it was. I see now why this is exactly what I needed. I needed a space that was more rural and open and quieter so that I could do deeper creative work. I needed to get off of planes, and I'm such a workaholic and I love what I do so much. I have to be 3 hours from a major airport. Otherwise I'll get on a plane every day.
Right.
And so you don't know what you want. You can't possibly know what you want because you only know what you know. And so in order to reinvent yourself, you have to first be aware that there's something stirring within you. And then you have to find the courage to walk toward those things like a book club or anything really, For me, I just started taking classes or taking workshops rather on podcasting. I started to talk to people about what they were doing in their businesses that were as different than mine. And there were a lot of things that I bumped into, Tara, that I'm like, I don't want to do that. Definitely not. But it keeps the spark alive. And that's the important thing. Inside of you, there is this ember. It's almost like a pilot light, like in a furnace. It's not out. It doesn't go out. It is inside of you, and it just needs you to start to fan the flame. I really want to talk to you about transitions. And we are in a moment of time when this episode's going to come out where there's tons of people graduating, and that's a major transition. And I am personally bracing. Dr. Marquez, I'm bracing. Our daughter is graduating from college.
Oh my God.
I can feel the panic attack happening. Graduation is in 10 days.
Wow.
She is then going to leave California and come home for the summer.
Wow.
And she is an artist, a singer-songwriter, so there's no defined career path. Mm-hmm. And I know that the bottom is going to drop out. Why are transitions so damn hard?
Well, I can feel the pain already for you, Mel. Like I can just feel like your whole voice changed. And there's so many people in the same boat. In fact, the world is in transition since COVID. It's a major transition. This is how I think of a transition. Before we even talk about why it happens or why it's so hard, is the way I see transition is somebody wants to go on a journey. Okay. And there's this idea of this dream life, this thing that you want to do. And some are voluntary, some are not. Like your daughter is finishing, it's voluntary transition after college. And she has this whole life ahead of her. And so that's exciting. But then there is the old, right? And the old I see as the shore. And so in transitions, we're like holding on to the shore of what we know, the certainty of the things that we know sort of worked. It's no longer working, by the way, because you want this dream life. And then the boat starts to leave and you're holding on to shore and you're holding on to the boat and you start to get stretched thin. And that's what we start to feel. It's that panic that you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's that anxiety. It's that uncertainty that happens. But we're so afraid of discomfort. We avoid discomfort so much that we just continue to hold on. And this is the first thing I want to say to everybody. Let go and start swimming. Let go and start swimming, because there is no ticket to a perfect life, right? That holding on is avoidance. And how many people have we heard that stay in a job they dislike, right? It's like holding on to certainty. I mean, I'm in the major of a transition in my life, in a career, and I'm as scared as you are. But like, if I just hold on to Harvard because that's what makes me good enough, then I'm never going to get to explore the world.
Wait a minute. What's the transition you're in the middle of?
Well, so, for the past year and a half, I really hit a wall at Harvard and Mass General. And I love what I did in terms of research, but I felt like there's so much more that I could do to help so many more people. I wanted to have an impact in the global world in terms of mental health. I wanted to bring that down. And let's be honest, an academic paper is not going to do it, right? It's just not. But I've been terrified to let go of this position and this academic self to jump into this like public speaking, writing books. And I don't have a path for that. And so like when people ask me what I do now, it's like, well, I do a bunch of things. And eventually I'll talk about like the integration of it. But like it is scary in transition. It really is. The first thing we all have to talk about is there's fear there.
For sure. There's fear there. Well, I'm, of course, on the other side of the table from you. And I'm really excited because I see a huge opportunity for you to make a massive impact by spending more of your time in the public realm, sharing your work and helping and impacting millions of people's lives by writing books and doing whatever else you may do. But I want to go and talk about the fact that when you write about transitions, especially here in your new book, you talk about values. Like, what is the intersection of the transitions that we all have to go through in life? Whether you're going to move or you're breaking up or you're changing jobs or you're thinking about your dreams or college is ending. What is the intersection of values and transition? transitions?
So values are so important. And yeah, most of the time when we talk about them, I feel like values are like a painting in somebody's house. You sort of know they are there, but you don't pay attention to them. So let's define values first, right?
Okay.
Values are intrinsic motivators. They are the things that matter the most to us, the things that should be our compass in life. Family, religion, wealth, integrity, right? And so what is the intersection between values and transitions? Well, in transitions, our values are questioned. What matters the most to us? Let me give you a personal example to make this come to life for everybody. Early on in my career, ambition was the value that mattered the most to me. Okay. And once you have a value, then we set goals with those values. For me, it was getting into graduate school. Then I had to go get into Harvard. Then I was an instructor, so I wanted to be an assistant professor, right? Ambition was the value, and then I set clear goals to those values. Eventually, I got to associate professor. The day I became associate professor, a colleague of mine said to me, so what are you going to do next to become full professor? And that question bothered me. I was like, but do I want to be a full professor? I had driven ambition because, see, ambition got me out of poverty. Ambition got me out of Brazil. Ambition is how I define how I would never go back to be poor again. But no longer ambition was working for me, Mel. I'd lay in bed at night and I had all the success in Harvard, and yet my brain was just not happy. I couldn't sleep. I put on 40 pounds, right? And I kept saying to myself, what if I just write another grant? What if I just write another paper? You know, I don't have the right to feel the way I do with all the privilege I have. And so ambition no longer was serving me, but I kept going at it. And one day I'm sitting in my office writing a grant, and half of my face went numb, just numb. And the first thought I had is, Lana, this is anxiety. You're unhappy at work. You're writing a grant. This is just anxiety. Next thing you know, half of my body starts to tingling, and I'm terrified. And then the next thing I thought is, oh my God, I'm having a stroke.
Yeah.
I'm having a stroke. So I called the nurse. And meanwhile, I'm like, I'm an anxiety researcher. I treat anxiety. This is just anxiety. I want to say myself, but like half of my body is numb. And I just end up at the doctor. My husband like drives me. I'm crying. And at that point, I remember going to my primary care Mel and saying to myself, oh my God, I hit rock bottom. Like, this is no longer working. I know what I'm doing is no longer working, but now I'm about to lose everything. Right? I avoided for so long, and now I'm having a stroke. And what if I can't speak again? What if everything in my life that I had worked so hard was right in front of me. And I just had this moment of like, holy shit. Like, holy shit. I've avoided for so long by following this value that no longer served me.
Yeah.
And just to avoid my transition. That's all I was doing. I was avoiding this transition. And so it turned out that I wasn't having a stroke, thank God. And they think it was a severe migraine. I've never had a migraine in my life. I don't know. The neurologist, like, it was 48 hours of hell of like trying to just look. And that's when I faced reality. Like, that moment was when I paused and was like, I cannot avoid this transition anymore. I'm no longer actually living a value-driven life. I'm living an emotion-driven life. I'm just trying to not feel uncomfortable. So I keep doing the things. And you asked me an important question in the beginning. Why this transition is so hard, right? Why does it hurt so much? Is because it creates so much discomfort. And in that moment, I was just avoiding it. And I couldn't avoid it anymore. And I just hope, and the reason I share this with people is I hope people wake up before they hit that wall, because we hold on to the old so much to not go towards our dreams. And I nearly killed myself in the process. And look at this. And think about how much skills I have. And I still avoided it.
How do you figure out what your values are?
So one of the exercises I use with my patients that I use that day is to actually do the opposite of what anybody does, which is to lean towards the pain. In the days after that nearly stroke, I sat with myself crying early in the morning for many mornings, thinking, why does this hurt so much? What about this hurts so much? What is it that is missing? Like, what is in my life missing? And what I realized is pain only exists because behind that pain, there is a value that's extremely important that's being violated. It's not that I didn't care about ambition anymore. Is that what I really cared about is I wanted to make a bigger impact in the world. And I knew that the things I was doing were not aligned with impact. They make impact on the patients that I work for sure, but I saw the world hurting. I saw the rise in anxiety from the CDC of 40% of Americans with clinical level of anxiety and depression. And here I was sitting in my little house with all the skills that my grandmother gave me, that science gave me, and I wasn't doing anything with it. I wanted to create a podcast. I didn't have a podcast. I wanted to write a book. I hadn't written a book. I wanted to go out there and meet people like you, and I wasn't doing it. And when I leaned into that pain, I saw impact, and I was like, wait a minute. I need to change my entire life. I need to change what I do. And so that's my recommendation. Lean towards the pain and ask yourself, why does this hurt? Because somebody is an asshole to you, okay? Right. They say something mean to you, you just think they're an asshole. But if somebody that you love very much says something like, you hurt me tremendously, now it hurts you.
Yeah.
It hurts you because you probably care about that person, because you probably love that person. It's not just that said something mean, it's that it violated a core value.
Wow. So I'm trying to think about the example between kind of the transition that you're describing, which is one that I recently went through, like probably over the last 2 years, of, again, achieved incredible success, but at a cost. And I knew that there was something that I valued more than chasing more success. Mm-hmm. And it was about connection and impact and peace and family and simplicity and artistry. Like it was about, and you can have more than one value, right?
100%. You can have more than value. But slow it down for us, Mel, if you don't mind. Because like, I just love what you're saying, but like, can you just tell me a little bit about the beginning of this transition and like chasing success and no longer feeling like success did it?
Well, yeah, like I think like a lot of people, somewhere along the line, I got the subliminal or subconscious message that achievement equals love.
Yes.
That if you're performing, if you're busy, if you are making a lot of money, if you're winning awards, if you're doing things that people talk about, that means you're worthy of somebody's love and attention.
Yes.
And so having that be a really big motivator, like, you say ambition, I would say if I went a level deeper, it would be love and self-worth.
Yes.
That was a value that I was trying to create in myself. Of course, I wanted to make an impact. Of course, I, wanted to creatively express myself and connect with other people. But my work allowed me to do that. But there was still something that I was pushing up against.
Yeah.
Because what started to happen for me is that once I got to a level of success where I had paid off our debt and I was actively saving money, and I could afford to do kind of whatever I wanted to do. I'm not talking Lamborghinis and that kind of crap, but like just had a really great lifestyle and was proud of myself. I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And like you, I felt like an asshole. You didn't use that word, but I'll use that word with myself. I'm like, what kind of an asshole are you? You're sitting here making an impact on millions of people's lives. You are able to stand on stages and share a message that changes people's lives. You are being flown first class all over the place. You can afford to eat anywhere you want. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And what was wrong with me is one of my core values, if I put it into the language of your work, was severely violated.
Yeah.
I was profoundly disconnected from my husband, profoundly disconnected from my kids and even my more extended family, because I never saw anybody because I was working. I had exactly 2 friends that I saw. And so I was profoundly lonely.
That's it.
And I was never not working. And so I just was like, something's got to give. And what actually gave is March 8th of 2020.
Yeah.
When my talk show got canceled and all of a sudden the world turned upside down, and I found myself like the entire planet found themselves questioning absolutely everything. And what the greatest gift of that massive global transition was for me is it made me really assess what my values truly were. And when my husband and our 3 kids were then under one roof together, it made me realize how much that's all I wanted to do was be with them. And when I started to do my work, not on stages and not by getting on planes, I'm like, you know what, Mel, it's time to stop talking about and thinking about doing a podcast. It's time to get serious about it. Mm-hmm. Yes, you have integrity, so you got to wrap up a lot of obligations to be able to do this the right way. Mm-hmm. And yes, operating with excellence is part of your value. Mm-hmm. So it's going to take some time to launch the way that you're going to want to launch. But that was the moment for me. It was values driven. And I asked you the question about how you figure out your values because it's a surprisingly hard thing to do.
It is so hard. It is so hard. And you actually unpacked so much because, I think the world has gone through a value shift in this pandemic.
How so?
Because the values that worked before the pandemic no longer fit for most people, right? Now we hear people talking about they want more flexibility in their job. They want to work from home. Why? Because they realized the family mattered and it was being compromised by the way they worked and did their family time, right? But most people, Mel, haven't had the privilege of what you have of being able to pause and reflect. Right? A lot of people are still in the treadmill of life. That's what I see in my office. People call me and they're still trying to fit their old values to this post-pandemic life. It needs a realignment. And how do you find your values is your question. So I talked about pain. The other way to find values, which I think is what happened to you, is this: lean into the moments that you feel your best. Okay. What about the moments? What's so important, right? You talked about being with your family. The way you said, my 3 kids and my husband, you lighten up. I could just see you in your living room with them during the pandemic. And if I went behind your brain, I could see just Mel being content, connected, and present.
Yes.
Right? Versus Mel on the stage was impacting a bunch of people. But then you're in that plane and you're craving that connection, that real connection with family. And so in those moments of flow, in those moments of quietness, ask yourself, what matters in this moment? Why is this moment important to me? Why do I feel good? And our values are right there. I know this. I do dinner with my family every day. Okay. And connection and family are 2 of the values for me, are super important. So much so that, I came to see you and I'm flying to Miami this week and I'll be gone for my son for 5 days. My husband looked at me and said, you know what? I think we should come with you because you need that connection before you're away from him. It's not going to feel good to be away from him Sunday and Monday and then the rest of the week.
Yeah.
And so pulled them out of school. They came with me. And this morning he said to me, can we stay an extra day? I really like it here. And just that made me feel so connected with him, right? And so those moments allow us to be connected.
When your life blows up and you find yourself in the ocean with pieces of the boat all around, look for a fucking life preserver or a raft. Okay. So I want to applaud you for doing what needed to be done when the what hit the fan. That same instinct is what is going to make you successful. The second thing that I want to tell you is once you get a hold of that life raft, you want to grab something else that floats, right? And get yourself out of that water. And so I am glad to hear that you're looking for a job. Yeah. And what I would recommend is not pretending about the situation that you're in. There is no shame in going to a job interview and at the end of it saying, and I'm asking you for this job. And the reason why I'm asking you for this job is not only because I am going to be incredible at it and you're never going to regret it, but I actually need it. I'm in a really tight jam. I had a life crisis happen. I never thought at the age of 55 I'd be in this situation, and I need the work and I want the work, which means I'm going to show up here every single day and I am going to work the heck out of this job. I've never wanted a job more than I want a job right now. And you should tell your friends that this is what you're going through and that you need help and that you need a recommendation or you need a place to stay. And you should not do what I did, which was hide what was going on because I was so ashamed. And, I'm also going to tell you, it will take time. 5 years ago, I still had the liens on this house. 5 years ago, guys. And so it will take time for you to climb out of this, but you will climb out of this. When you're in a shitstorm and when the lights go out in your life and things feel really dark and really heavy, there has always been one thing that helps me get through those moments. And it's reminding myself that this moment, like every painful moment of my life, was temporary. It passed. And when you can keep telling yourself this moment it's going to pass and it's leading me somewhere, when you can trust in that, you create your own light in that dark tunnel. And it allows you to look up. And one of the things about learning something new, like how to make money online, is that it acts like a beacon for where you're freaking going.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the powerboat that gets you there right now.
I know.
Because you know what I mean? Because you need to find another freaking life jacket, which means you need to get a job. Which
I know.
You need to just keep going on these interviews. And there's no need, if you've gone on all these interviews and people are like, you're amazing. And then you don't get it. And you think it's because you're too old or you're too desperate. They say you're a consultant. Right. There's no shame in writing back and saying, I'm not sure if you filled the position, but I didn't mention that I actually need a job.
Right.
My pride got in the way. And so if you haven't filled that position, or maybe you, are looking for more people, I want to make sure I'm not looking to be a consultant. I've never wanted to find a great job more than ever than this moment. There's no shame in that. What's the worst they're going to say? Yeah, we filled the job.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I've been really even just struggling to even get interviews too. And it's just a funny thing, and it's like, I did have a really great.
What did you do before?
Well, I have I was sort of a rock star visual researcher with directors, back in the day. And I took an odyssey out of that when I had my kid and went to Europe, and I had a company doing that. And recently hooked up with my old team through B School. We're starting a Pinterest collective. So I'm reactivating this whole visual research space.
Great. Let me tell you what you could do tomorrow.
Yeah.
Project management.
I don't know, girl. I'm like the worst project manager.
Bullshit. You can't manage your own life. You can manage somebody else's project.
Maybe.
1,000%. 1,000%. Do not look for a job in what you used to do.
Okay.
Look for a job managing projects in any kind of company. Because you just need structure and a place to go every day and a paycheck. That's like the rows on the boat rowing you ahead. Yeah. And you're scrappy enough, I can tell, that you'll get annoyed with that job. And then you'll start hustling even more than you are. And you'll giddy up in the other things. But you need the structure. You need to get out of the house. You need a simple paycheck. You need to do that routine for a couple months. I am telling you, it is the best job market in 4 years. I don't give a shit how old you are.
No, I love hearing that. And I get so frustrated by that because it's like you're
looking for the wrong kind of job. You're trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Yeah. I mean,
you have skills. Stop looking at industries. You have skills. You can manage things. The woman that I just hired, who's going to come on board as my executive assistant, organize Mel. She was a graphic designer. She worked in a branding agency. She had a dog walking. She's never been an executive assistant. Why? Right. Because I just need somebody who can organize shit who's an adult that I trust is not going to steal from me. That's what I need. And who can boss me around.
Right. Yeah, I do. I understand. I do think I do have the adult quality. And
of course,
I definitely, I'm a pro. I mean, I honestly though, Mel, I would ruin your flights. Like, I'm the worst. I'm not a project administrative.
Then don't take that kind of job. You're not hearing me. You have skills that you can market. Do not look for a visual organizer, needle in the haystack job. Forget that. Get your skills at the top of your resume. LinkedIn has an entire learning platform, and there is so much on there about marketing skills. That's what people are hiring right now. It's not about the industry.
Yeah, I do see that. Like, I have like 8 recruiters working for me that can't place me because it's like, I'm an email marketer. Everything is like one skill kind of, like parsed out. And like,
trust me, look for project management, account services, anything, honestly.
Okay.
That's just what you need. You need something. At this point, don't be picky. Just
I'm not picky.
a job.
I just feel like I don't get any traction with it. It's weird. Like, it's just I'm not.
Okay. So let me tell you something else. You ready?
Yeah.
Because I can tell you don't like the advice, which means it's exactly what you need to do.
I don't know. I'm open to doing anything, but I just wish I was good at that. I've worked with project managers and I value them.
Well, then don't be a project manager. You're missing the point.
Okay.
If you're working with recruiters, they're not going to place you in a job that's general.
Right.
80% of jobs are not even marketed. They are filled by referral.
Right.
You need to be talking to your friends. You need to be looking at the job boards on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And you need to be lowering your standards because you are in a lifeboat right now.
Right.
That's what you need to do.
Okay.
And as you lower your standards on the job front, and as you start rowing in a direction, because you now have a paycheck, you're able to get out of your ex-husband's apartment every day. I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
Like, let's just be honest about where you're at. And you have a rhythm to your week. That structure from that job is going to give you what you need to get going in a different direction.
Yeah.
You can't organize your thoughts because you're all over the place because you're in an emergency. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing I want to tell you is you are capable of figuring this out. And you will get a job. And you will launch a new business. And you will make these things happen. And you will look back on this moment. And you will see exactly why this happened and how it helped you get somewhere awesome.
I believe that.
Excellent. Then
I totally believe that. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thanks, Mel.
You're welcome. Being tough because I want to see you pull yourself up out of this. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.